Okay, hi Dan.
Hello.
Okay. All right, so I guess we're ready to start. And hopefully you will start with that. I don't think we'll take the full hour today.
Okay.
That's
good,
talk
because
about
we might have evacuation orders.
I might be having to leave.
What? No, come on.
The fire's getting a lot closer.
Do you hear that, guys?
Jump the highway.
No.
And
They're talking about the fire just got considerably worse. Huh.
Oh no.
Ugh.
Oh,
Okay.
well, send some rain your way.
who else is on?
Pat House, Kathy, and I'm not sure who else, to be honest with you.
Okay. Like I say,
Yeah,
Mariah,
Pat and myself.
Can you see-
Mariah, I know not there. She's helping prepare for the services.
Roy, she
Yeah.
pinged Roy, and Roy's not on yet, or may not be on at all.
I'll
Yeah,
text
Roy
her to
said he
get
was
out
going to start
there.
without him.
She said he had
And I
migraine or
don't-
something. I'm sorry,
Not
Kathy.
anybody else on the line.
All right,
That's okay.
we're good here.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started.
Mute.
And Pat's going to be our session leader again today. And she'll be talking about the Bill of Materials.
Yeah,
So with that,
Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
Good.
I'll talk
good.
quick, Brooke, so you can go get something to eat.
All right.
The bill of materials can be set up to use with production planning, or you don't have to use production planning when you utilize the bill of materials. And of course, it's option 15 here. I took a quick gander at your system yesterday, and it looked like maybe in the very beginning you all had taken a stab at it, or Earl did. I don't really know. But I saw a couple of items that were set up in it. But we'll just take a quick peek at it here. You'll notice that you can identify a bill of materials, which will comprise of all the components to create a particular item that's in your item master. And you can do the change copy just like our regular standard screens are. And it has a from and through date. And this is so that a lot of people will set up their bill of materials costing and component schedules based on their season or their calendar year. And when using production planning for costing, it utilizes those dates as well to make sure that it's costing into your finished goods correctly and then expensing them correctly as you go if you choose to use that kind of accounting system. You
Pat?
can do copies. Yes?
Sorry, jump right in. And this may have been always like this, but so if you had a different vendor supplying different components from year to year, could you you set up one for this season and one for next season with a different lid, let's say?
You could either change your material master for that vendor and use the same material code
Uh-huh.
over and over again, but change what the standard pricing of it is.
Okay.
We'll look at that in a minute. When we go look at the components, we'll show you how you can set up effective dates for the pricing as well.
Cool.
So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just go in. Most of the clients that are using this do not set up by location. The idea is that it's possible that if you have locations that are far apart, that perhaps your components have different cost bases that you want to track. But it's certainly not necessary to set them up by location. And we'll just pick on reds like we always do. And if you're trying to set up a production run, which we'll look at when we're finished, and you do not have an effective date range in here, the system will not allow you to select the bill. So it's important to get a date range in there. And we'll just do it to change quickly. And you'll notice it's just a regular red tray pack Washington choice, which is in our demo data set. The base unit is considered a 1. Now, some folks will look at this in your standard costing, be it by carton, by tray pack, by bins, etc. You could have a different base unit if you wanted to keep everything at a generation of a standard, if you will, size and pack. But typically people do just one, and the finished goods standard cost is in here because if you're using this for costing purposes, it assumes then that your item that you're packing would have a standard cost of $7.50. Some of the accounting, and Brooke, if you want to get into this in more detail later, we can, but briefly, there's a hierarchy of being able to use the accounting that's in the system. You can have all of the inventory, costing, production, finished good inventory variance go to one account number, or they can be set up based on your grower type. So, for example, if you have outside growers where you're doing grower settlements, you may want to use a different costing methodology or account numbers than you do when it's in-house, if you will, orchards.
Okay.
So on the second screen, we get into the components that create the bill of materials, and of course we have one that's a little bit simplistic here compared to what you guys probably have in reality. And we have items that are sequencing, and the sequencing is set up specifically for, say, processing type houses, where you have to add one particular component or ingredient before you add a second one, blah, blah, blah. So that's why you see the sequences there. The M stands for it being a material. It is also possible to add another finished good item. So if you're creating anything that is non-labeled or a bright stock item at some point, you can have that also. You can have any kind of material and or item from your item master be a component. And we'll take a quick peek at how we have these set up. Now, these are, clearly examples. So for this example, we're saying that it takes one tray pack to create one item. And we go into if we F4, we'll go over to our materials master. And we looked at that a little bit yesterday when we were talking about our farm management. And you'll see here that I have a tray pack set up. And if I do a display, we can take a look at this. And again, as we mentioned this is the same master file that farm management uses. It's just got a different set of codes that are user defined in the system. In the case of our tray pack, it is actually a real item, so we do say yes, it's inventoryable. That means if you purchase it through purchase orders, it increases inventory when you use it. It also subtracts in the material inventory files, so it keeps a running schedule of what your inventory is and what its value should be in terms of your trays or any other item that you have as a component.
Pat?
Yes?
Curious, when would it not be inventoryable? Did I see like overhead, for example, on the previous screen?
Right. Some of the clients have set up materials in the master files that are not inventoryable, and that's to put in like an overhead rate. If you know through your budget that, for example, to create one of these items, your overhead rate based on a budget would be $1.25. You can put that in, and that will also go through the production summary journal and do the accounting for you.
Got it.
Some people have done labor rates.
Okay, cool.
And then they can do variances against that when they look at the actuals that have gone through the system. Again, let me point out that we have the inventory account, the consumption account, which is to say usage when you've used up that item, and variance account, cost and volume. And because, for example, we're saying that it takes one tray pack to make one item, well, maybe during the course of the production run, 3 or 4 tray packs at a time gets messed up and you have to throw them away. Well, eventually, you're going to have a volume variance, and you can keep track of it if you choose to in the system. The cost variance is set up so that automatically, if I have a standard cost, let's say 65 cents here, but yet during the year, the material inventory file is keeping track of your average cost, and perhaps the average cost has gone up to 75 cents for a particular reason, you can book the cost variance so that you know how different you are from your budget. You'll also notice that we have a default vendor in here, and then we have the economic order quantity fields that can be filled in. This comes into play when you're using the system so that if you, for example, say that I have a replenished inventory quantity of 120,000 and my minimum inventory quantity is 100,000, when I start hitting those break points, the system, from the purchase order point of view, can provide these suggested purchase orders saying, oops, looking at what you have planned, you're going to need blah, 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 and we're suggesting you go ahead and contact this vendor and order so much in order to meet your needs for your materials. And it's set up so that you can either go ahead and then create the purchase order, or you can make adjustments to it and not create it at all, or say, well, you know, I happen to know that that's really not going to happen. What we're planning isn't going to happen the way we think it is, and you don't create the purchase order. It's a suggested purchase order. On the standard cost, Stan, to answer your question that you started with, is that we have effective dates for these standards. So, for example, if I wanted to, and I'm in display mode only right now, so I can't add one, but you add a new one in with a new effective date and put in the new standard cost, and starting at that point in time, all of the accounting would use the new standard based on your effective date. Are there any questions on this file?
Nope.
Down in this section, the production type area, the blank was our original entry when we created this, which, you know, didn't care about particular types of production. But since then, we've added production types of L, P, and B. And L indicates that you'd be using a labeling line. P is a production line only. And B means it can be either. So I could use this material for any particular type in any kind of production run. And these field entries or parameters are also included in our production line master. So if there were differences, you would want to make sure that you keep them consistent so that you're not trying to create a bill of material that doesn't match a production line. And that's how easy putting the bill of materials is together.
So, Pat, in the production type, like you said, label, and you mean if you're like taking a bright stock item and putting a label on it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
And Kathy, I think you showed them production planning the other day. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah, I showed them production planning, how they could, when they create the plan, it does the explosion and does the materials availability.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Dan, did Dan and Brooks do that?
That was probably that was Roy and I only. If you want to blow through it, that'd be great. I'm sure that they're interested to see it. Sure.
Okay, I'll run over there for just a moment.
Okay.
Because I wanted to explain how you could show a variance, how it becomes a variance at some point in time. If I, let's see, let me just do this one. For example, if I look down here at the red that we just looked at a minute ago, and I put a 7 in front of here for material availability, I can see that here is my finished good item that I intend to create based on my plan. And then I have the 3 items that were included in my bill of material. And in this case, I have a balance on hand that are in green. This batch says I'm going to use 450, so the system is now starting to calculate the inventory that's going to be available should this production occur as we just spoke of it. And of course, the overhead doesn't have inventory, so it's never going to have any thing in it. But if you were short, as in this one, you'll see that you may have a balance on hand of inventory, and you have some purchase orders, where you are going to be receiving product, but this batch is requiring 1,353. The system is estimating that you're going to be short 561 cartons. And if you were using the suggested purchase order report, it would then go out and look at this shortage that you're anticipating, and based on the economic order quantities that you've filled into the material master, it would make suggestions on what your next order should be to your vendor. And once these are finalized, and for example, you'll see that on the first line, we had an estimated quantity of 300, and 245 of this was actually packed. If we do a change and take a look at that, we can see what the estimated quantity was. Here's the actual, and here's the source number. We also have the ability from here to apply usage for the bins that have been applied. You can either do that at the pack-out level, or you can do it here.
Forward me that.
And it shows you here, by looking at usage, what we have used in this particular pack-out that's tying into the production run.
Hey, Pat.
Hmm?
Will one production batch always correlate to one source number?
No, you can have multiples.
Okay.
You can have multiple source numbers to a production plan or an item in a plan.
Mm-hmm.
You can also have a plan that's beyond one date. Some folks like to create a production plan for the week, perhaps for the month.
So how does that correlate to the source number on the previous screen you showed us there?
If you had multiple source numbers,
Yeah.
where you have the F9 view source numbers,
Oh.
you'd see multiple source numbers through here.
Very cool. Nice. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Then also, on the next screen where the components are showing,
Whose house is it?
the plan estimated, for example, we had 300 that we were going to create in our pack-out. But in reality, we only packed 245. So the system said, well, you know, I used one, just like you said in your formula that you did when you created the bill of materials. So based on that, I have 245 that I think I've used. And it also calculates actual quantity based on that same formula. But if you know for a fact that changed, you can come down here and say, well, actually, we used 350 of them because 100 of them got stuck in the box machine and got ate up. And so when the production summary occurs, and also your material inventory, they will all be updated on what is in the actual quantity, so that you have control over that at any time. And once the production summary journal does not create until a batch is finalized, which is why most people do not do one beyond a month, because they can do their month-end close. And that's pretty much the top level piece of it. One of the newer things that we have also is, and it's based on if you choose to have it turned on for a flag. In the production planning, we also have a copy feature that can be used now, because a lot of times people find that their planning is very much the same, either day to day or week to week, and they don't want to go through and have to key one in for every day or every week. So they do a copy and then just update it for quantities as they anticipate the plan to be. Any questions?
Yeah, where's the copy?
Where's the copy?
Yeah. What am I
See,
missing?
in Ag Devil, it's not turned on.
Oh, okay.
But if we had the flag turned on, it would show up right in here. That's why I mentioned it to you.
All right.
But it's all pretty, it's pretty succinct.
Okay.
Works to keep the information together, whether you use it for accounting or if you use it just to keep track of inventory. It can be very helpful.
For sure. Okay. Short and
You
sweet.
guys have any questions?
I'm okay.
You okay?
I think Brooke
I'm
and
good.
Brooke and Dan are gonna go pack up the dogs and get the hell out of town or something. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah. And just FYI, Stan, I signed on your system and I do see the 3 copy there, so it's just not turned on in our ag demo.
Yeah, and Pat mentioned that there was some work done. There was quite a bit of work done, Pat. And I think the gentleman at CFC, Paul Hunter, was pretty involved in it.
Yeah, he was.
So yeah, there's more than a fundamental understanding of this piece of the system for sure. Cool.
Okay.
All right, all set.
Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you guys. We'll
All right.
talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy lunch, Brooke.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. What's the topic tomorrow?
Oh
So I
hell.
don't know what it is.
I'm not going to be here, but I know it was. What was it?
Don't forget.
I thought it was something that it was okay.
I left my sheet in the other room.
It wasn't here.
I left my sheet in the other
You need to go
room.
look at the imagery that Matt has on his computer. How about on the big screen?
Oh.
Yeah. Whoa. So what the hell's going on? What's going on? Seriously.
Well, it's really actually starting to get close to my house. I didn't think I'd have to be worried about
I was looking at this. This is. I don't know. I can't remember what that was.
it. So this
Look in
is
the house.
now all the way down.
This is all the way here.
This is over here,
Uh-huh.
but now it's come all the way down to down through here.
Right.
My place is just right here.
Holy shit.
And it sounds
Wow.
like it's jumped the highway somewhere along here, so now it's burning on this side of the river as well. Which we have an orchard up in here somewhere.
Yeah. I want to get through Pateros, otherwise
But
I'll have to go home through Mansfield.
I have friends that live up in here and they lost their house.
Really?
Yeah, the New Neckers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
They have an old time homestead for they just when I was